The movie starts with such an aged man who was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. His son, who was a scientist, used to be worried for his father. He wanted to manufacture such drug, which may help him remembering things and he may be alright. At last, that scientist is succeeded in his struggle. He had got the drug of this disease. They applied on the chimpanzees before human beings to check its outcome. When this drug is experimented on chimpanzees, the results of these experiments were very interesting. Its intelligence had increased. Scientist gets excited, observing it. He shares about this experiment to a senior. Scientist declares, there is need to test it on humans. His senior tells that you will have to get permission from authority for this. Scientist says, I am sure that they will permit me. Now that scientist's meeting is arranged with those board members, they ask him a question. What are the advantages of your manufactured drug? Scientist tells them, I tested it on the chimpanzee, and its intelligence increased. He says, I want to test it on human beings, so their Alzheimer's disease may be cured. Board members appreciate him on his manufactured drug. They were also contented on his work. Now it is seen that man visits a place where they had kept that chimpanzee. Chimpanzee gets aggressive, seeing that man, and it begins to act indifferently. It begins to break the surrounding things while attacking that man. Jumping here and there in aggression, it reaches that place where the scientist was being interviewing. What did it happen? Impression on scientists may leave a negative effect, because they were unable to handle chimpanzee as it was most aggressive. Then a man arrives there and kills it, firing his gun. Board members who were much scared, they say to scientist, that we cannot consider your this invention. Have you seen its response? Scientist is left saddened. Board members say, no. There was something in your drug, which turned this chimpanzee most aggressive, and it is better to kill your other chimpanzee subjects. Being disappointed, scientist comes outside. Then he encounters that man outside who was the caretaker of the chimpanzee. He encourages scientist saying, I can understand you and have trust in your manufactured drug. That female chimpanzee did not go mad due to your drug. Before a time, it delivered a baby. It thought that we will harm its baby when we visited its room. So it became aggressive, which may be the response of any mother. Scientist understands that there was not any side effect of his drug. That co-worker says to scientist, I put to death all other chimpanzees according to their order, but that infant chimpanzee is still alive. You can take it away if you want, because it will be intelligent like its mother. It is clear, you tested that drug on its mother when it was expectant. Scientist brings the infant chimpanzee to his home. Coming to home, scientist's father gives it a baby milk feeder. It takes it immediately. It had become intimated with them. It used to behave like for the 5-year-old child. It had grown 1 year old with the passage of time. It was mischievous and intelligent. It had learned everything as the name of colors, differentiate the shapes, and also the game playing. It is seen that 2 more years are passed. That chimpanzee had grown 3 years old. Its brain used to work brilliantly. Contrarily, scientist's father's brain was more weakening. He had gone about mad because of this disease. Even his caretaker also expresses that, admit him into a hospital and his care is not under my control now. Scientist gets worried too much. Next day, he brings his manufactured drug stealthily, going into his laboratory. He says, my father is going mad. Why I should not apply this drug on my father? I am damn sure that it will cure him. He tests this drug on his father. He observes, waking up in the morning. Then his father is playing piano. He is pleased because drug had affected positively. His father is also got excited seeing him. He says to his son, take me to see that chimpanzee which is residing with us. But that chimpanzee goes to someone's house to take their kid's bicycle. Also wanted to ride the bicycle, but the owner of that house catches it. He is going to end it. Then scientist and his father instantly approach there. They stop him saying, it is not dangerous at all. It just wanted to play. At that time, chimpanzee had also got a minor injury. That scientist takes it to zoo so it may feel good to view other animals. Actually, he is taking it to the vet. Now they had reached that doctor. That doctor observes, this chimpanzee is very intelligent and good one, because it is communicating with the scientist through the sign language. She is surprised, witnessing it. Scientist says, he is intelligent from its early age. Now chimpanzee also started liking that doctor, so it communicates scientists through sign language that you both should dine together. That doctor asks, what is it conveying? Then scientist tells her everything. Now that doctor had started to visit their house, she observes that chimpanzee is always peeing through the window. It means, it wishes to view the world outside. She suggests to scientist that we should take it for amusement. 3 of them had befriended Nusley. Now they take chimpanzee to the nearby park of that house. There was no one except them. Chimpanzee gets pleased, going there. It begins to play. Then they always used to take it here. Then the time continued to pass and that chimpanzee had grown 5 years old. That female doctor and scientist had developed a relationship. As being wise, that chimpanzee says to scientist, going to him, "Am I your pet animal?" It was asking him through the sign language. Scientist says, "No, you are my dearest son." Chimpanzee asks, "No, tell me from where I came." Then scientist says to him, "Come, I show you." Then he takes it to that place where its mother was present. He tells it everything. He tells, "You are intelligent because you are under the effect of that drug." Scientist sees, coming to the house, that his father's condition is turning worse as it was in previous effect of that drug was disappearing from him. It is seen on a day that scientist's father tries to drive the car, getting in it, but he was forgotten all how to drive it. The car begins to move oddly, which caused the harm for the parked car next to it. Chimpanzee is observing all through the window. It cannot control itself and comes downstairs. It attacks that man. He was the same person who had tried to kill chimpanzee in its childhood. Chimpanzee cuts his finger. Court announces the decision after knowing it. That chimpanzee will not stay as a pet. It will be kept at that place where other chimpanzees stay. Scientist is dejected, hearing it because this chimpanzee was his family member, but he was compelled before the legal authority, so he has to act upon it. He leaves that chimpanzee there, but that chimpanzee says to him through the sign language, "Don't leave me here. I cannot survive here." But scientist says to it, "You will have to live here now." He was dejected, but he comes back with courage, leaving it there. Chimpanzee is also saddened. Scientist was also upset because of his father's distorting condition. He says, "I will manufacture more effective drug which may be able to cure my father for the lifetime." He shares this information with his head saying, "I had tested this drug on my father. Many positive effects appeared in him. He got recovery for some times, but this drug was not too efficient to treat him for lifetime. But it is not the matter of trouble. I have manufactured an efficient drug which can affect for a long time." The head repents saying, "Why did I not allow you test this drug on humans?" Then scientist asks, "Is it allowed to me now?" Then head says, "Start the process. Our company can profit crores." On the other side, that grieved chimpanzee is shown. He was being treated like the other animals. He draws something on the wall of its cage. It was the sketch of that window through which it used to peep from its house. This scene is simply sorrowful, because it was remembering its house. Then it is seen that they tested drug on a chimpanzee, which had been manufactured again by the scientist. As a result, that chimpanzee's intelligence is increased to a great extent. That drug succeeded. Then scientist goes to meet his pet chimpanzee. It tells him, "They're not treating it good. I want to go at home." But scientist says, "You will have to stay here until I get the permission hearing." Scientist threatens to the employee of that place, "You will have to care it, otherwise I will make you dismissed from your job." He again has to leave chimpanzee there. At this time, chimpanzee was more saddened thinking he is gone, leaving me here. Scientist observes, going to his house, his father's condition has gone worse again. He says to him, "Come, I apply a new drug on you which will cure you completely." His father says, "No." It was too late now. Then it is seen that his father has passed away within a few moments. Being sorrowful, scientist goes to that chimpanzee from there. He says after paying a lot of money to that place is in charge. "Hold the charge of my chimpanzee to me." Being agreed, in charge allows him to take chimpanzees to his house with him. Chimpanzee sheds tears when scientist goes to it. It says, "I will not go with you now." Saying it, it locks the door. It turns its face. Scientist has to leave from there. One day, an employee from that location invites some of his friends to visit. When one of the boys comes to chimpanzee, it takes a knife out of his pocket, and it opens the cage door at night. Using that knife, coming outside, it also meets one more Serkis gorilla and chimpanzee. They also knew how to communicate through the sign language. Chimpanzee says to that gorilla, "We can win until we are together." Then it comes out of that place and moves to scientist's house. Stealing his new manufactured medicine, it returns back to the same place where it was caged. It opens the lid of that drug. Consequently, all chimpanzees are turned like it. On the other side, it is known that drug had infused into the mouth of the employee while testing it on the other chimpanzee. As a result, that employee died. It is revealed here that it is dangerous for human beings, while it leaves a positive effect on the chimpanzees. Then that employee is shown who used to tease these chimpanzees. That man comes to give it the electrical shock with a rod. That chimpanzee stops him, holding his hand. That employee says, "Animal, keep away your dirty hands from me." Here the chimpanzee speaks for the first time. No. That employee is left surprised and that chimpanzee falls him down, striking with a fist. Then that chimpanzee goes to the other chimpanzees to make them free. But that employee had restored his consciousness, so he proceeds to give them the electric shock. Chimpanzee throws over him the hose, so he dies after getting the electric shock. Now that chimpanzee comes outside from there, taking the rest of the chimpanzees. Then they go to the zoo together and rescue other chimpanzees. Afterwards, they move to that company where that scientist used to serve. They also rescue all presented chimpanzees there. Now they had taken a stand collaboratively. All had turned into the intelligent chimpanzees. They begin to raise their voice again the human being, as they are vice. They imprison and mistreat us. No one receives scientist's call when he calls to that place where he had left the chimpanzee. He himself goes there and witnesses that there is no one. He asks from a wounded person, "Where did it go?" That man tells him, "It went away, taking everyone. It has spoken today." Then the scientist is shocked. He understands where they have gone now. Police had also got this news, and police officer had surrounded the areas to capture them. Now it is seen that all chimpanzees are moving to that park, where scientists used to take that chimpanzee. They cross a bridge to go there where they are attacked by the police. Those chimpanzees also confront them. During this, a chimpanzee is nearly to kill a police officer. Then the chimpanzee of scientists speaks out, "Don't." It means that it had still a sympathetic heart. It did not want to kill the people. His head reaches there in his helicopter, and he begins to fire his gun on all chimpanzees. At the same time, a tallest gorilla attacks that helicopter. It is hung over the bridge after being crashed. The scientist's head was still alive. Then that chimpanzee comes to him on whom that drug was tested in the laboratory. It falls that helicopter from the bridge, so the scientist's head is dead here. All chimpanzees move to that park together where a scientist chimpanzee used to visit. They wish to live there. Then scientist also comes after them. He says to his chimpanzee, "Stop now, control your anger. Leave it. I will be with you and take you back to the house. I will guard and carry you. Otherwise, police will put all of you into death." Then his chimpanzee whispers, "It is my home now. I will stay here." Now scientists had understood that chimpanzees may live happily in forest rather than at this house. He says to it, "Okay, it is your life. So live it." They begin to lead their life in forest blissfully. And the scientist chimpanzee is the master of all of them. He cares and guides them. Then the scientist's neighbor is seen whose nose begins to bleed, because the employee had visited scientist's house who had breathed that drug. So he moved to his neighbor, not finding him there. Meanwhile, he coughed on him, so he was also infected by that virus. And he was going for the air flight. It means all the rest of the people will also be infected by this virus, and the havoc may be created throughout the world. Now the part 2 of this movie, The Dawn of the Planet, will be explained. It is seen in this part, those chimpanzees had become strongest. They were leading their life in that forest. They had passed 10 years while living there. At one side, population of human was reducing. On the other side, their generation was expanding. They had spread completely in that forest. They were ruling there, the humans who were left rare. They were leading their lives, hiding themselves into a corner of the world. These chimpanzees were spending their lives craftily. Scientist chimpanzee had bred a baby, which was male chimpanzee. Once it is playing with its friend in the forest, it reaches the place of city power station while walking. The water flows from there. Then some people approach there, and they encounter those chimpanzees, the scientist chimpanzee's baby and its friend. One of the men targets them with his gun, because he was scared, witnessing these chimpanzees. So those chimpanzees also begin to scream, because they were also feeling the threat to their lives. That man scares much with the screaming of these chimpanzees. Being afraid, he fires his gun. Consequently, that infant chimpanzee's friend is injured. Due to the sound of the firing, all chimpanzees gather there. They were aggressive, as they had come to end all of them. But their group leader named Malcolm says to chimpanzees, "We were not here to harm you. We have just visited here together. There was not our intention that we might fire our gun on anyone. We apologize." Then scientist chimpanzee also arrives there. It was wiser than other chimpanzees. He hears that man completely. That man says, "Trust us. We are not going to harm you." Chimpanzee forgives him and warns, "Never show your shadow again here." It orders him, "Get out from our forest right now." So Malcolm and his group leave from there. They were not getting the point. From where did these intelligent chimpanzees come? Now they had moved to that place where the survived human beings were living. They begin to live with them. Then the subject gorilla of a time gathers all chimpanzees. It also calls the scientist chimpanzee. It says, "Look, human beings have returned back. Attack us." It tells that they tormented me while experimenting. They tortured and pained me. Behold, they have come back again. They had also fired their gun on that infant chimpanzee, which was the friend of that chimpanzee's son. He begins to provoke all chimpanzee against the human beings. Scientist chimpanzee is also enchanted by its words. It talks to the chimpanzee, which gets ready. It listens it because it was also sympathetic. It used to take decision of anything with deliberation. It knows that it is the need of humans. All chimpanzees decide to go in order to frighten them after grouping themselves. We will take revenge from the human beings. Now all chimpanzees move to that place where human beings were dwelling. Scientist chimpanzee is directing everyone, riding on the horse. At last, they reach that place. Malcolm says, "Going before it, we had apologized to you. You have again come here. Now we will neither visit there again nor harm anyone. We are at fault and we also confess." Scientist chimpanzee says to him, "All right. You came at once, but we'll never visit there again. You will face death if you visited there. You don't know, our chimpanzees' hearts have filled with much loathing for human beings. You yourself will instigate for the war if you visited there." But other gorilla wanted to break out the war. "And we may rule over the world after defeating the humanity." At last, chimpanzees leave, warning them for the last time. Now Malcolm is much worried because the area of their residence, there was not electricity, and the power station was in the forest where they had gone before. Now they had to go there for its repairing. Malcolm is upset because of this issue, thinking, what will we do now? We will have to visit there by and by. Chimpanzee should understand it that we are not going to harm them. He also shares it with his friend. He says, "We should take risks to talk with chimpanzee about it." Now it is decided between them. Now Malcolm with his companions and family move there. They need water and electricity for their survival, but it says, "I will allow you to come on one condition. You will have to hand all weapons over to me if you want to enter the forest." Malcolm was not thinking to harm them, so he gets ready, as he will hand all weapons over it, so their fear may vanish, and we may do our task there. Now it is seen, infant chimpanzees are befriended with Malcolm's family until he stays there. One day, all human beings are working on that power station. Then a chimpanzee finds a gun there. He tells about it to scientist chimpanzee, and that chimpanzee gets aggressive. That I had forbidden them that weapons are not allowed to be taken there. It says to him, immediately, "Leave our forest. You did not follow our order," but Malcolm tries to explain it. "But our intention was not to harm you." On the other side, it is seen that scientist chimpanzee's wife used to suffer health issues, and Malcolm's wife had given it a drug for its recovery, which had completely recovered it. That chimpanzee's heart is melted due to this. And it says to Malcolm that I give you one more day. Accomplish your task within this day. Actually, Malcolm's companions was involved in finding the weapons in their possession. He never used to trust those chimpanzees. He also wanted that it is better to break out the war. Contrarily, gorilla also wished the same. It means they could kill each other, confronting Malcolm's companion wanted it. That weapons possession is necessary for our safety. So he instructs all human beings, keep weapons in your possession. That gorilla notices them, shifting those weapons among them. It reveals the whole news to scientist chimpanzee. "I had informed you," but scientist chimpanzee says to him, "Calm down." That gorilla gets infuriated, thinking that it does not hear against human beings, so he talks to it rudely. "Are you chimpanzee or not? Or you are only the friend of human beings?" Being infuriated, scientist chimpanzee attacks that gorilla. It leaves from there in fury after being injured. He directly moves to that place where the humans were living, stealing their weapons. It puts many people into death after firing. Then it moves to his forest, and it sets all houses on fire. It also shoots the gun on the scientist chimpanzee. It wanted to show that everything was committed by the human beings. And all chimpanzees begin to think that human beings are responsible for it, and they start hating the human beings. Getting the chance, that gorilla also talks much against the human beings. It says, "I had said rightly and we will have to start a war against them." After this, he addresses to the others, "Now I deserve to be your master." Due to this, he is chosen as a master that it used to say right. All chimpanzees' heart were filled with the hatred for human beings. Contrarily, it is seen that the electricity had restored where the human beings were living. Being pleased, human beings were celebrating it together. On the other side, chimpanzee moves to that place to act them with his group. They go to the place of gathering of human beings. They begin to attack all of them. Some people are hidden while others begin to become their victims. Now that gorilla commands to the infant chimpanzee's friend that fire the gun on all human beings, either attack them in some way, but it does not agree because it had also compassionate feelings. It had learned from the scientist chimpanzee that people should not be attacked without any reason nor they are killed. It does not carry out the order of gorilla. Then it causes its dead, pushing it from the building, and it was enslaving the chimpanzees who were not obeying it. On the other side, It is shown that Malcolm and his wife are going in the forest, where they find the injured scientist chimpanzee. They bring it into their house, which was at the opposite direction of the city. When they bring it into their house, that chimpanzee tells them after restoring his senses that gorilla chimpanzee had attacked me, not the human beings. Malcolm understands the all-shrewdness. What was the actual matter? He goes to the medical store to bring the drug for it. Then he finds chimpanzee's son there. It is going to fire a gun on Malcolm. He says to it, "Don't do it. I have your father and I have to take care of it. And it has been shot down by your gorilla master." Hearing it, it stops. Malcolm also leads it to his house. Coming to house, it reveals everything to his father chimpanzee. What actions have been taken by that gorilla scientist chimpanzee had understood. What was the actual matter and the planning of it? It goes there where that gorilla had attacked. It had created the fuss there. It frees all chimpanzees, going there, whom gorilla had imprisoned. Malcolm's partner tells him, "There is no need to be afraid now. I have contacted with military through radio transmission. It is merely approaching here. It will cope these chimpanzees, saving them. The good news is this. Our city has restored the electricity. They will not be the darkness," he says. "It is not enough. Chimpanzees tried to climb our tower. They will be dead because I have set the explosives on the tower." Now it is seen that all chimpanzees had started to climb up the tower, so they may end the human beings along with their built tower. At the same time, Malcolm's one of the fellows activates the explosives, so one part of the tower is exploded, and the climbing chimpanzees on the tower are also died. On the opposite side, scientists chimpanzee and gorilla are shown fighting each other, who had confronted themselves. Scientist chimpanzee was in full rage because it had understood its conspiracy. Gorilla is angered and says, "You want to kill your own species? I kill them." Then it starts firing on its companions chimpanzees. Chimpanzee stops it and climbs up the tower to stop it. But that gorilla is still not stopping. Then chimpanzee pushes it down. As a result, that gorilla has died, falling down from there. Now chimpanzee meets Malcolm. It says, "I thought wrong about the human beings. Even chimpanzee and gorilla are also proved threatening. Forgive us what we did with all of you." And it wants to reconcile him. Malcolm also wanted the reconciliation. He tells chimpanzee, "Military is soon to come here. You may go from here." Chimpanzee says, "What will happen with my departure? Human beings always want to kill us." Chimpanzee says to him, "You may go now, taking your family." Malcolm agrees and he meets with chimpanzee for the last time. All chimpanzees kneel down before scientist chimpanzee when it comes outside, because they also know that military was nearly to approach, and a great war was going to break out, and it was their master who could rescue them, and it was scientist chimpanzee. And the movie also completes on the scene.